Assalamualaikum and a very good day I wish to Dr. Afika. My name is Hanim and I will present about the Management Accounting AAT 10303 individual assignment that cover about the Haji Ibrahim food manufacturing case. Without further ado, let's begin. Welcome on board. In today's agenda, I will cover about what is job costing and it is different from batch costing. Next, I will cover about the type of costing that is used in the calculation of Haji Ibrahim food manufacturing. And the last one is the calculation step in Haji Ibrahim food manufacturing case solving. First one is the job costing. Job costing is a costing method that apply where is the work is undertaken to the customer's special requirement. Job costing usually is in the single order or in a contract form. Besides, each order in the job costing is of a comparatively in the short duration. The cost unit is in the executed job, where the cost is determined for each job after its completion. One of the examples that we can take from this job costing is the construction of a building. Next, we move to the batch costing. Batch costing is similar to the job costing. It is a separatable, identifiable group of units that are produced often or to the order. In this batch costing, we can see that it is required lots of identical items that makes up one cost unit. The cost unit is in the particular batch where it is reckoned as a single cost unit like a job. It also is a cost of unit that is computed by dividing the total cost by the number of unit. One of the examples that we can give is the production of 50,000 disposable medical gloves. Next, we move to the question statement. In this question statement, we can see that Haji Ibrahim Food Manufacturing Industry to order and has the following budgeted overhead for the year based on the normal activity level. We have the two departments here, which is accounting and preserving. In these two departments, we can see that it is given the budgeted overhead and the budgeted activity, where the budgeted overhead for the cutting require about 24,000, while for the preserving require the budgeted overhead about 40,000. Besides, it is given that the budgeted activity for about 4,000 labor hour for the cutting department and 3,000 labor hour for the preserving department. The selling and administrative overhead are 30% of the factory cost. An order for 1,500 bottles of pineapple sauce made as batch 25 incurred the following costs, which is a material about 48,000, labor that require 300 hours in the cutting department at Rm 7 ringgit per hour, and 500 hours in the preserving department at 50 ringgit per hours. And the last statement is where the Rm 2000 is required was paid off for the hiring of the cutting equipment for maintaining the cutting machine. So, the first question, what type of costing you use to solve the above task? Explain what you use in the particular costing method. My answer is, in this task I use the batch costing because it readily identifiable group of units that is used to calculate the each department production in Haji Ibrahim food manufacturing. Besides, it's also require me to calculate the cost per unit as batch costing features only that required to calculate it. From this question, we can see that the difference as the job costing is continuously identifiable while batch costing is readily identifiable group of units, and this question is in the batch costing question requirement method. Next, we move to the question 2, where I need to calculate the cost per unit for the batch 25, and also I need to explain how I derive the answer. For the calculation, you may refer to the next part. So we are in the calculation part. In this part, I will explain step by step how I managed to get the answer. So for the question, it require me, the first thing that I need to do is what I what type of costing that I use in this question. So for this question, as we can see, it is already in the batch costing type. So um in clearly we can see that this is a batch costing question type. So I use the batch costing formula to answer this question. So this is my calculation or the calculation step to to get the total cost for batch 25 and also the cost per unit for the batch 25. So the first thing first is we need to find we need to calculate the overhead absorption rate for the production department. So for this department, we may see that it has two departments, which is cutting and preserving, as I mentioned earlier. And so we take the first department, which is cutting. The cutting department required 24,000, this one, the budgeted overhead, divide with the 4,000. Where we get the 4,000? 4,000 is from the budgeted activity, which is the cutting department require 4,000 labor per hour to complete the activity. So we get about RM 6 ringgit per labor hour. And for the preserving department, we get 40,000, where 40,000 is the budgeted overhead, divide with the budgeted activity, where is the 3,000, it required 3,000 labor hours. So we get about 13.33 per labor hours. All right, this is the total overhead absorption rate for each department. Okay, next. So we move to the total cost of batch 25. For the batch 25, okay, the first thing first is we need to list out our, we need to identify what is the direct material, direct expenses, and direct labor. So the direct material is already mentioned in the question, where the material requires about 48,000 material. So I state it, the direct material is the total 48,000, while the direct expense we get 2,000 is from this. 2,000 was paid up for the hire of cutting equipment for maintenance cutting machine. So we can see that the direct expenses is 2,000 as mentioned in the question. So we put the direct expenses here to 2,000, and third is the direct labor. For the direct labor, we have two, as Haji Ibrahim Food Manufacturing has two department, for one for cutting and one for preserving. So for the cutting, it's required 300 hour, as mentioned in the question, this one, at the 7 ringgit per hour. So we put 300 hours times with 7 ringgit, so we get about 2,100 ringgits. And second is 500 hours, where it is for the preserving department, 500 hour preserving department at 15 ringgit per hour. So we get 500 hours times 15 ringgit, so we get 7,500. So the total sum up of the 7,500 and 2,100, so we get about 9,600. So what we need to do next is the direct material need to be summed up with the direct expenses and the direct labor. So we get three this three 48,000, add with 2,000, and add also with 9,600, so we get about 59,600 as the prime cost. All right, so we move to the overhead. Okay, as mentioned earlier, we already know that the overhead is three is still same as earlier, where 3,000 300 300 hours required for the cutting department, and 500 hour for the preserving department. So we list out 300 hours times with RM6 ringgit, so we got about 1,800. And for the preserving is 500 hours times with 15 ringgit, where we get 6,665 ringgit. So the total cost for these two, we get 856 sorry 8,465. So what we need to do is this earlier 5,000 59,600 need to add up with this overhead cost 8,465, and we get about 68,008 sorry 68,065. So next we need also to add with the factory cost, where factory cost is sorry the factory cost is 60 8,000 ringgit and 65. and we need to add with the selling and administrative cost, which is selling and admin costs are 30% of the factory cost as mentioned in the question here. So what we need to do is, from the factory costs, we get 68,000 ringgit and 65. We need to take 30% of it, and we get 20,419 ringgit and 50 cent. So the total cost will be the 88,484 and 50 cent. All right, so that is the calculation for the for the question 2. So as the question 2, from the calculation, I use the formula total batch cost divide by the number of unit in the batch. So as the result, I get the total cost per unit is 58 ringgit and 99 cents for the batch 25, while the total cost is 88 ringgit 484 and 50 cents divide with 1,500, and we get about 58 and 0.99 as the total cost per unit. So that was my tutorial how I managed to get the answer for the question 2, and this is the list of picture for the Dr. Afika references. For the calculation of cost of unit, I use this unit cost formula. So that's all from me. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Afika, for spending your precious time in my presentation. All the good come from Allah and all the bad come from me. Thank you and bye-bye.